Hi guys, this is a game that I played a couple of days ago, and as you can see it's pretty accurate game, and I think it shows you how to effortlessly punish a scrum player, like for example a 2100. In order to be 2200, obviously you need to know how to do that, and in this video I'm going to show you the way, and obviously it's going to be effective even with weaker players. So my opponent played e4, and I'm a French player. If I know that my opponent know a annoying line against the French, I play the Caracan, but otherwise I just play the French. So I play the French defense, and he's going with knight f3. Now after knight f3, you can play d5, and if they push, you usually enter into the advanced variation. The difference is that usually they have a pawn on c3 before developing the knight on f3. So in this case I could take, and the line is different, but you could also go into the advanced variation, or instead of doing that, your opponent could also take, and after this trade we enter into a normal exchange variation of the French. So going back, I obviously played d5, which is the main move in the French, and my opponent decided to take, and as I said, this is the exchange variation, and I play knight on f6, which is logical. You might also try to play c5, which is a tricky move. People have tried a bunch of stuff, even knight on c6, and try to play something wide, maybe they took us so long, but the best way is just playing knight on f6, and this is a boring line. Pretty much black has to copy white, but if white plays to win and plays something which is wild, you can punish him. So despite the fact that this is a real Darwish line at high level, at my level is not. It's playable, and black has zero problems, so if you want to fade the French, this is not the way. Now my opponent castle, and the castle, this is like main line, is zeros. No one has an advantage. I mean, white has a slight advantage because he just tap a move. But apart from that is nothing. Bishop on g5, pin the knight, and usually you want to develop the knight on d7, defending it, you have no problems, but before doing that, you want to develop this bishop, otherwise it just gets blocked. So I play bishop on g4. Now, bishop on g4 says it's inaccurate, it's not, and even if you look at the advantage, I mean, it was zeros, and now I should play rook on e8, now it's plus 0.4, 0.5, it's a normal move. I don't think it's a blunder. I think it's also theory. I mean, you can play this move without any problem. And they play h3. I played h5, which obviously makes sense. I mean, this is the best move. This is the move that Stockfish was suggesting. I play the best move again. And now it's plus 0.2. So as you can see, maybe the Stockfish is weaker. Yeah, it's Stockfish 11. If I remember correctly, Stockfish, strongest Stockfish says that bishop on g4, it's a completely playable move, it's not inaccurate. And yeah, they play knight on d2, and as I said, I want to defend the knight with this knight. So, well, I can play c6 first, doesn't make any difference, we are going to transpose anyway. Now I play knight on d7, and usually they play queen on c2, queen on c7, and as I said, black is basically covering white, no one has an advantage. This might be a weakness in the future, but I mean, it's literally nothing. And that's the plan. But if you try to win, you might actually want to play something different. Now, queen on b3 is not something you play if you want to win, in my opinion, because it's just a bad move, I think. After they play queen on c7, your queen is just misplaced. My queen makes sense. Your queen is just blocking this pawn, which might be a problem. And I mean, okay, this queen is attacking the pawn on b7, but the pawn on b7 is defended. Also move the queen so the knight is not pinned. I have no problem. So, I mean, white still has a slight advantage, but it's basically nothing. And now, after I put a rook on this file, I can put another rook on this file. And I chose to play rook f on e8. If you want to be accurate, I mean, usually the best move is rook a on e8. Doesn't make a big difference now, but depends on the position. I mean, now it changed basically nothing. But usually, I prefer developing this rook on e8 because I have the idea of playing bishop on f8. Because sometimes they sacrifice, but after bishop on f8, I mean, you can defend with no problems. So, rook f on e8 is the thing that makes more sense for me, and in this position is also the best move. And my opponent is playing to the without the knight, and that's where I think you can start punishing your opponent. After this move, I thought I was better, because this move is not really good. It's not really good for the simple reason that this knight is only defended by the bishop, and I have the idea of bishop on f4. So after we play that this knight is under attack and I have a lot of activity. So this basically puts his piece on a worse position. And also playing knight on h4, after I play h6, you can't play bishop on h4, so this is another problem. And the way to punish it, I think, is playing bishop on f4. Now, if you want to be really precise, which is the move I played, and I was sure about this, every time computer is always suggesting this move. If you want to play bishop on f4, before doing that, you can give a check. You can give a check, and the king has to move. And what is the point? The point is that in the endgame, if you think about it, let's say we don't have queens or something like that. We don't have many pieces. He has a king on h1, so let's say if he wants to go on this square, and I want to go on this square, my king can go there in 3 moves, but his king has to spend 1 more move. So in the endgame, my king is closer to the center, so obviously it's better. For this reason, I play this move, and after that, I can just play bishop on f4. And I have a point. If you take my knight, I don't have to take your bishop. The best move is actually taking this knight, and after that, your rook is hanging, your bishop is hanging, and if rook take, okay, I take back, your bishop has to move, and you have really weak pieces. Also, I mean, I guess you lose a pawn in this position. You can't just run away. The move is bishop on e5, yeah, and then you lose a pawn. Also, this knight is pretty weak, so yeah, that's why you can't do that. So instead of doing that, my opponent pretty much has to take the bishop. And in fact, that's the move we played. But after that, as I said, that's the way to punish white for having played this move. After they play this, the punishment is that this knight has to go back, because otherwise, I mean, you just lose it. And after it goes back, my pieces are better than his. So maybe in the long run, I can have a decent advantage. Now it's not enough to win, obviously. But my opponent can go wrong pretty fast. And in fact, now he played knight on f3. But the knight d on f3. And that's not how you're supposed to defend this knight. And now that my opponent blundered, he's a strong player, so if he blundered and I want to win, I have to take this occasion. I can't lose moves, I can't waste time. So for this reason, I need to play actively and aggressively. Thinking logically, this knight is defended by this. If I take with the bishop, the knight go back, so he's defended. But my opponent missed another thing, that also this knight is attacked 2 times. So I can just play g5. And g5, it's a really good move. g5, it's a really good move because after the knight move, I can just take 2 times and it's with check. And if you think about that, this time it's also with check because previously I gave a check on h2 with my bishop. So that's another advantage of doing that. That's why that was a good move. So at this point, the knight has to move because it's under attack. Now, Stockfish is suggesting to play this. This just blundered a piece. So maybe that's why my opponent decided to play that. Although this is even worse because this still blunders a piece and you lose a pawn too and your king is really weak. Now, I can't take this obviously. Before taking, you also need to calculate. You need to calculate if your opponent has a check or something annoying. After you see that this is not a big deal because you can just move and the knight has to go back, you can take this. Also, you have to calculate what happens if rook take. Well, you just take back and you have 0 problems. If queen take this way, you still have zero problems. Everything is defended. So I have a really solid position. For this reason, I can take the knight. After pawn take, I take with check. And now my opponent has a big problem. Now my opponent is dead lost. Because after the king moves, I can take the bishop. Now, if you're wondering, can you take on h3? And that's a move that I was thinking about doing the game. Instead of taking the bishop, I just take on h3 and I get a knight on g4 and might look like it's unstoppable. I felt it was stoppable because usually in position like this, well, my opponent still has a lot of pieces, so it has a way to defend usually. And he actually has. So after I take these, he can play queen on c2, and after I play knight on g4, he has a move like f3, which defends. Now, obviously the position is still really bad for him, but at least he can survive for some moves. So instead of doing that, I just decided to play logically and think about material in this case and take the bishop. I mean, this position is great, I have zero problem, I'm up a piece. Also, I'm attacking the knight, so this is another problem for him. So my opponent gave me a check, and now you don't have to be scared. And that's how you beat scrum players. First of all, they make a mistake and you punish them. The move after, you can't waste time. And also now, I can't waste time. I can't play passive move like king on h8, king on g7. I need to play actively. This knight can't run away after this move, so I can play king on f8. Now, it might not be the best move, but practically speaking, humanly speaking, my opponent is going to lose another piece, so it's going to be much easier for me to win. In fact, this knight can't run away. Now, my opponent can technically defend the knight after the queen e3, and then I play, he's saying queen on b5, so I guess with the queens, this knight is still under attack. Can escape, but then I keep trading pieces and still up a piece and GG, obviously. And instead of doing that, though, my opponent tried to play actively. So he's down a lot of material, obviously, the position is dead lost. If he keep playing passively, he has no chance. So for this reason, he decided to take the pawn. Now, again, don't be scared, you need to play actively. This knight is under attack. But if I take it, I lose the rook. That's the point. But if I have a way to defend this rook, I can then take the knight. So do I have a way to defend the rook? I indeed have a way to defend the rook. And the way is rook on b8. And this is the point. First of all, the queen is under attack, so you still need to play actively. And second, on this square, the rook is defended, so I can take the knight. So you see, I still play really aggressively and actively in order to have even a bigger advantage, because after you adapt material, you can't just stand there and play passively as a lot of beginners do. And after that, after a couple of moves, your opponent is going to play more actively and you get mated for some reason. You need to attack. If you adapt material, you have a stronger attack, so that's the time where you need to absolutely destroy your opponent, and that's the time where you need to be aggressive if you adapt material. So they take the pawn, I take the knight, and in this position my opponent resigned. Obviously is dead lost, I'm up 2 pieces, you can't do nothing about that. Now, let's say I want to keep going for some moves. Now trading, I don't think is the best thing, just take and you don't even have a check. So computer is suggested to play queen on d6. Yeah, exactly, which is a move that I actually saw. I was calculating this before taking the knight, because this move wins the rook. But I'm not losing the rook because I just have this. I have rook on e8, so the rook is defended 2 times. You can't really, I mean, yeah, you can double rooks, but you're not going to be in time. Let's say you play rook on e3. I can play a move such, well, it's saying queen on d2, but let's say I want to be more defensive and bring the queen closer. I can just play this, and let's say eat up with rooks. At this point, I just have, for example, knight on e4, covering everything. This is under attack. This queen is really strong, so everything is defended. So in order to beat this strong player, I don't care, I mean, a 2100, a 2000, 19, 1800. In order in order to play someone who is stronger than you, first of all, if you feel like they make a mistake, at that moment, just stay focused, and instead of spending, I don't know, 20 or 30 seconds on a move, as you usually do, let's say you even spend less seconds, let's say 10 seconds, and if you think you have a winning advantage, at that move, you can also spend 2 minutes, 3 minutes, till you find it. But after you find it, you have to play. Like, you can't say, well, Luke's winning, but I don't know, Luke's winning, but I don't feel I can say. If you want to win, you have to take a risk. Then in the future, you can calculate better. And I mean, you see fighter, you see all the line maybe, and you say, well, I win, I have no problem, I'm not even in danger. But if you think you are in danger, but you also think that wins, just play it. And I mean, if that is a blunder, you're going to get better. But otherwise, you can't beat a stronger player. You need to be aggressive when they make a mistake. And after that, you add up material. And after you add up material, remember, you still need to be aggressive. You can't be passive, otherwise you lose. And that's one of the skills that made me pass 2200. There are a lot of others, but this is really important. So that's it for today, guys, and see you in the next video.